Hello, my name's Karen Claridge from Personal Success Coaching for Parents and Teens. Now, I've been asked over these Easter holidays if there's any advice and tips I can give to parents with teens in terms of communicating with their teens. So, the answer is having two teenage boys myself, I know it can often be very trying. But I do have a few tips and tricks up my sleeve that I think might help. So, I want to share with you my 5 top tips. The first one is avoid labeling your teen. In other words, they may be going through a bit of a tricky time or unmotivated, and it's easy to call them lazy or rude, etc., etc. But one of the things I know is that when you label your teen, they always live down to it. It becomes an identity issue with them. So the important thing to do is separate who they are from the behaviour. So, really just focus on the behavior um, and avoid the labels. So, the idea is if you want to say something like, instead of you are lazy, talk about the behaviors that they are showing and see how they can change those around. And what it does is it gives them a lot more freedom um, to explore in terms of themselves and their habits, and they don't feel like it's just who they are. And just as equally, if you're saying my son or my daughter's bright, it means that they just don't get a chance to stuff up or not do well. So it's really important just to change that and focus on the behaviour and not who they are. That's my first tip. My second tip is that you choose your times, because I know when it hasn't worked for me, I've chosen completely the wrong times because it's something I want to talk about. So I think what works really well is to set up a time. If there's something important to talk about, discuss with your teen when is a good time to speak, how long are you going to speak for together, and what it's about. So they just understand that it's important, but you're going to set time aside. So not doing it in front of the television or when they're doing studying or, because it's just not effective. So choose your times very carefully. Also, when you're not frustrated or angry or cross with them, because that doesn't work. Believe me, I've tried it. So the third tip is pace them. What I mean by that is if they are feeling tired or something's gone wrong, really try some empathic listening with them first. It actually does wonders. So if they're feeling tired and they don't want to talk, you can say something like, I know you're feeling tired. So when would be a good time to have this discussion? And give them a couple of options. And so what you're doing is you're kind of respecting their space, but also saying, it's important to have a discussion about a particular topic. The other tip I have is ask questions rather than statements. Now, I know when I'm tired, it's easy just to want to tell them what to do. But you know what? What I've noticed is when I ask questions instead, um, it seems to be a lot more effective. For example, just recently, my son's bedroom was a complete tip. And instead of saying, go and clear it up, I've said to him, what do you think happens when your bedroom's a real mess? How does it accumulate? How do you feel when you can't find anything you want? All your clothes are dirty, etc. So they can begin to think for themselves and understand um, that it's important to think things through themselves. So ask them really good questions and get them to start thinking for themselves what consequences might be and what their actions are. And it really just helps them to evolve into young adults, we hope. And lastly, what I wanted to do was talk about the examples that we set when in our communication. So, not to say that we have to be perfect all the time, but just really be careful about the words we choose, because the words have power beyond anything we know, and the words that we choose really get us to experience feelings. So, one of the important things to do is when they're saying things like, I'm feeling really low, or I am this, or I am that, in a negative way, or in fact, we also say that ourselves. I often hear people say, I'm feeling really depressed. What they mean is, I'm feeling a little bit down right now. So we have to be really careful of the words we use, because they have enormous power and they do change the way we feel. So what we can do when we can communicate with our teens is talk about sort of a very positive words to help them change their experience. So for example, we call it reframing. You could say maybe they didn't win a particular competition or they didn't do particularly well at the exam, but you could say to them, what did you learn from that experience? What could you do better next time? And how great that you competed anyway and you came second. How did that feel to have even competed and achieved so much? So there's lots there for you, but I know that when I have used these, my top tips, they've worked really well for my two teenage boys. So good luck, and I hope that some of these tips work for you. Just try them. They don't always work, but you know what? It's always worth giving it a go. So good luck, and keep checking in with my videos to help you with your teens. Bye for now.